Welcome to the fall semester. My name is Dr. Luke Wood, and I'm honored to serve as your Vice President for Student Affairs and Campus Diversity and Chief Diversity Officer. It would be remiss of me not to acknowledge what a challenging year and a half it has been for many of us. We have persisted in supporting students despite the incredible difficulties of our time. Along the way and over the past 18 months, many of us have lost loved ones, know others who have, or have experienced extraordinary difficulties. We honor the moments and people that have been lost, especially our very own Dr. Ray Manzan, who I know was a friend and colleague to many of us. As many practitioners and scholars have asserted, we are sharing this time together in the midst of two pandemics. The pandemic of COVID-19 that has borne disproportionate infections, unemployment, and loss of life in communities, but has been particularly evident in communities of color. For our students and for many of us, this loss of life has been accented by the fact that the normal grieving processes have not been in place. Due to hospital policies, many of our students have not been able to sit beside the bed of a loved one to help them transition from this life to the next, to have those delicate moments of peace and grace with those whom we hold dear. Similarly, they were unable to gather together with family and friends through memorial services to share stories, be in community, and to help process the loss and to celebrate the life that was lived. The Delta variant has heightened this moment, as many had hoped that we had come to the end of the pandemic, when in reality we have much, much further to go. In addition, our students and colleagues have also endured the racial pandemic that has plagued our nation for many generations and many generations to come. In order for something to be a pandemic, it can't be a localized phenomenon that affects even a region or even a nation. It has to be a global phenomenon. And unfortunately, anti-Blackness is a global phenomenon that has a unique strain here in the United States that we've seen most prominently through the murder of George Floyd, as well as other names such as Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner, Oscar Grant, Sandra Bland, Tony McDade, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and Alfred Alongo from our home here in San Diego. The repeated loss of life and high-profile nature of these cases has further routinized the pain and experience by the Black community. We also know that anti-indigeneity, anti-Semitism, xenophobia, and anti-Asian bias are all current challenges in our nation, as well as here in San Diego. As our students navigate both of these pandemics, we should recognize that we are transitioning back to in-person activities with those within our community having experienced trauma. And there have been limited outlets for them to process and heal from that trauma. We know that this has had a direct impact on our students' overall well-being and their health. For example, William A. Smith from the University of Utah's work on racial battle fatigue has shown that students who are exposed to racial stress, even stress that has been subtle and mundane, experience an accumulation of that stress over time, and it leads to symptoms that are akin to combat stress syndrome. He has shown that there have been physiological and psychological responses to these stressors. The physiological responses could include a tension headache, backaches, an elevated heartbeat, an upset stomach, loss of an appetite, elevated blood pressure, and clenching one's jaws at night. The psychological effects are also manifold: constant worrying and anxiety, intrusive thoughts and images, loss of confidence, frustration, emotional and social withdrawal, and much more. I say this to recognize three key points. First, our students are entering into this semester having been deeply affected by the last 18 months. And for those of you who work directly with minoritized students, you have seen this up close and in person. And second, to recognize that when people talk about trauma, often they're talking about COVID-19 and the racial pandemic, and they use that T word, trauma, to externalize our responsibility and to displace it. But in reality, we have to remember that trauma happens in schools, colleges, and universities too. The ways that we engage our students either serves to further harm and do injustice to them, or to provide a safe haven and an environment for support and belonging. The ways that we engage our students either serves to accelerate the experiences that they've had or to provide pathways for healing. And it is up to us as individuals and as a division to address this. Third, I say this because I also recognize that each of us, in different ways, has also been affected by the pandemics. And sometimes you may find yourself in a position where you're trying to be a solid rock for others when you feel nothing more than a bag of pebbles. And that is why self-care is so important, because we cannot be wounded healers. We must strengthen ourselves physically, emotionally, and spiritually for what may be the most important semester in the history of this institution. One thing that makes this semester particularly unique is that, as our Dean of Students, Randy Tim, has said, more than half of our students have never been to campus before. They have never physically been to our campus. We had our 1920 class of entering students who had their spring semester cut short and had to transition to fully virtual classes in a short period of time. We had our 2021 class who, with except for a small group of students, have only known SDSU through virtual classes. And now we have this incoming class of 21-22 students who are brand new to campus. Many of them have never set foot on this campus before now. And this does not only include our first-time students transitioning from high school to college, but also our transfer students and our graduate students. This is something the institution has never experienced before. We know from extensive research on student success that these transitional experiences are the foundation for their academic and personal growth. What we do now, this semester, this moment, will determine their success from now till graduation. Many of us in student affairs and campus diversity believe that the work we do in support of students and faculty and staff is a calling. We must rise to that calling as one united front in the midst of these two pandemics. But if anyone can rise to the calling, it's the Division of Student Affairs and Campus Diversity, where we are committed to supporting SDSU's efforts towards becoming global leaders and developing our students to embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion in research, in teaching, and in community engagement. We are an essential component of a university that honors the inherent value of all individuals by creating a nurturing learning and work environment that affirms and leverages our community's varieties of traditions and heritages and perspectives and experiences. SDSU recognizes it is imperative to create a culture of excellence designed to promote personal and professional success, growth, and well-being for all members of our community. Within our division, our offerings are designed to promote student development and enhance our university's community with access to programs and services and initiatives that facilitates and fosters academic and co-curricular success. Our goal is to expand opportunities for all students while advancing diversity and belonging and providing students with an enriching co-curricular experience. I'm so proud of the work that each of you has done every day. This past week reminded me of your continuous efforts in support of student success, where many of you made phone calls in response to our university's COVID-19 compliance policy, taking out hours out of your own weekends just to call students to make sure that they were not disproportionately impacted. Over 1,000 students received personal phone calls this weekend to remind them that they need to upload their vaccination verifications and exemptions. On top of this, REO began the process of bringing in students into our residence halls, a process that we will see even bigger numbers this week. Student Health Services has worked arduously to vaccinate, test, isolate, quarantine, and lead the efforts of our institution in creating a safer and healthier campus. Our collective campus efforts around the dual pandemics has engaged every single person and every single department in the division. What's more, we have tackled this work in multiple modalities. Many of you transitioned to remote work within a week or two and immediately continued providing services and support for others. Still, others continued working on campus, maintaining in-person operations. Our division has merged online and in many ways has thrived in these times. As we have expanded our services, our team has also grown with new faces and ideas to complement the storied history of our efforts. In fact, many of us have worked at SDSU for 5, 10, and even 20 years. This tells you something about the California State University system, but even more about San Diego State University, and now about the Division of Student Affairs and Campus Diversity. From this year's Presidential Staff Excellence Awards, we saw that there were 3 winners from the division: Libby, Sharika, and Nico, and countless others who have exhibited incredible excellence time and time again, with the administration of over 30,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccine, support for over 16 college division and auxiliary diversity plans that were approved by the Senate DEI Committee, the management of over 400, almost 400 registered student organizations, 13 employee resource groups, development of new branding and website layout, hundreds of thousands of direct outreach attempts to students, new student and parent program support, comprehensive and holistic economic and mental support for our students, and more than a dozen student centers that are focused on providing success to our students. Some departments also provided guidance to almost 700 students a day in supporting their families and their communities. This division's scope and depth of accomplishments shines a light on SDSU. The work that each and every one of you do helps us to reach and meet the challenges of our time. Your dedication is exhibited in the longevity of the university's knowledge. The university's strategic plan, We Rise, We Defy, Transcending Borders and Transforming Lives, has established our vision and mission for the next 4 years. The work of this division supports the sense of belonging and community building of We Are SDSU, the sustainability and programming that allows SDSU to be resilient and designed to thrive. Leveraging our designation as a Hispanic-serving institution that resides on community land and truly serves our Hispanic, Latinx, and Native populations provides an infrastructure for us to become a premier research university with students at our core that is dedicated to equity and inclusion in everything we do. Not just some of the things we do or most of the things we do, but everything we do. The divisional leadership team has undergone training this summer on storytelling, emphasizing the strategies to tell the story of the work you all do. The language that emerged from those sessions highlighted that our work is unifying, inclusive, and transformative. Because we are effective in these efforts, we're able to empower the whole person, whether it's students, faculty, or staff, or other members of the SDSU community. As we continue to evolve through the imperative work you do, the way we define ourselves is still being developed through the divisional strategic planning efforts. The Divisional Strategic Planning Committee, composed of staff, faculty, and students, represents all parts of our division and is chaired by Senior Associate Vice President Dr. Andrea Dooley and SDSU's inaugural tribal liaison, Jacob Alvarado Wypuck. We had our kickoff meeting in May and have been meeting throughout the summer. Our efforts to tell our story will align with the university's strategic plan, focusing on the way our division embodies and executes on the main university priorities. The process does not stand solely on the shoulders of our strategic planning committee, but rather on our division as a whole. The Divisional Strategic Planning Committee has begun to develop a process for broad divisional engagement, which works so well for the university's strategic plan. We wanted to maintain the important value of broad engagement by intentionally seeking feedback from faculty, from staff, and from students. As we share the full scope of our work that is so incredibly important to the service of the campus, we plan to begin engagement sessions this fall. We will reconcile feedback and begin to formulate a plan in spring, all while having opportunities for additional feedback on the items that are identified in order to finalize a plan that can be shared with the campus community and begin implementation in the following fall. And now, I want to sincerely acknowledge my appreciation for the meaningful work each of you do. Your desire and your willingness to serve our SDSU community fuels our efforts and guides our success. I'm proud to support the work you do daily. You are the heart and soul of the division and of the campus. I wish you the best as we embark on convocation, move-in, and the final days of preparation before classes start. I appreciate you and look forward to a great year together here in Student Affairs and Campus Diversity. Thank you, and have a great start to your semester.